Hey everyone, this is Baylor, and in this video we're going to start making a web app with Rails and React, and we're going to look at adding Stripe to it so we can have a subscription platform in the future. But the first part of this video is going to be actually starting the web app and actually getting it started. And which reminds me, is Rails RC1. I haven't paid attention to see if RC2 is out. And internet's running nice and slow. RC1. Okay, so that's what we'll use is RC1. So we'll go into code, and Rails version is RC1. Ruby version is 2.5.1. And so we'll use Ruby 2.5.5 and Rails RC1. So let's actually create a new project, and we'll call it Garage. And we will disable unit testing, and we'll set our database to PostgreSQL. And we'll set up Webpack with React. And so I think I got that right. Webpack equals, yeah. So I couldn't remember if it was webpacker or not. So what we're doing here is we're just scaffolding out a web application. You saw we're using Ruby 2.5.5 and Rails RC1. I think 2.5.5 is like, I know it's not the latest version. I don't know what it is, but I know that 2.5.5 is a little bit outdated now. Or maybe it is still 2.5.5. Maybe it was because 2.6.3. And see, that's like already almost 2 months old. I don't really keep up with this too well, like I probably should. But yeah, 2.5.5 is the latest. So this video is the latest in everything. And it always takes a long time. I think there's a good argument to be made with modern web saying, oh, you shouldn't make all your web applications in a single package, going simply because of the fact that it takes forever to go with Ruby and Node to get get a deployment set up with like Capistrano. Probably the same amount of time with Heroku. Yeah, and I think it's a little bit slower as well since I'm screen recording. Which reminds me, there was a package. I think I started on GitHub. It was something new for process management. I don't remember where. I guess I didn't start it. Anyways, let's see. I bet it's done now. Okay, so we're good. Oh, I didn't really describe the web app that we're building. It's going to be kind of like a Fuely clone. Not so. I have a couple of cars. I like cars. So I have a couple of them, and I always use this app to. And it's like, this one's not really mine. It's my parents' car. I drove it for a little while. I track every car I have. I track the fuel economy. Like every fuel up, I track, right? And so what I want to do with this app that we're building here is basically have like a profile for every car, so we can have maybe more than one picture. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Jake the Lab. I don't know if you know Chris Spooner. He did this for his dog. And so it's like a whole blog. I think the dog has like a Twitter. It used to have like a Tumblr, but I think Tumblr's gone. I don't know for sure. But yeah, the idea is just basically to have an app where we can put all these cars. And I'm thinking the subscription is going to be like multi-tiered so that you can do things like have a profile for your like a page, I guess, like a Facebook if you do that, like they have pages. So I don't know. I'm hoping maybe in the comment section if you're watching this and you want to build it and you have ideas, because I'm kind of like, uh, do you charge money to do the fueling part of it? I don't know. This isn't an app I'm building or anything. It's just like, what would you do if you were building an app like this? And it seems like kind of gimmicky if I make a subscription where like your vehicle gets promoted on some type of homepage or something. I don't know. But this is essentially what we're building. It's like if we go in one of these, I've only put 2 fuel ups on the Volkswagen, but and I'm afraid to show you too much. It's like gonna be like, this is the gas station Baylor was at, and then that's too much information on the internet. But yeah, you get the picture. So what we're gonna do is we've created our project. I always start by adding the gitignore file and have like a create project, commit, and add Rails with Webpacker React. Okay, so we now have our project, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Tmux, and I use Tmux because of and the way I do it is I have Tmux set up like tabs, and so 0 is always like my servers. Webpack dev server, and then 1 is usually the app, and I usually work on like micro apps. So then it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Let's get this out of here. So yeah, 1 is going to be our app, and then we can have our servers running in the background. So if we go to this page, we should have our welcome. We don't. What kind of shell is this? This is Ruby. Okay, we can't do that. And I have noticed, I think this is new to Rails 6. Like when I do that, it gives me, oh, I'm sorry, Rails 6 has the Rails DB setup command, setup. And this is supposed to do a DB create and DB migrate, but it always fails because I guess this is a Rails candidate. But it always tells me like the database doesn't exist, or then it says you can't do the migration because you don't have a DB schema. So add initial schema. Anyways, I run them separate and we're good to go. Okay, so yay, you're on Rails. So we have our Rails app running now. And what I think I'm going to do first is kind of let's add devise. So we'll go to our gem file, devise. And generally what I do, I won't probably do it in these videos. Generally what I do is I go to Ruby gems and I type in the name that I'm looking for, right? And I get this version, and that way I can always version my gems. That way, or at least be explicit, because you don't have to be. And I like the explicitness of it. You'll notice I think Rails does it in this default project on everything. But yeah, I find that I like having the versions. I just probably won't do it here. I'll probably just say like gem devise, for instance. Okay, and that I noticed there's a bcrypt placeholder here. And we'll just delete those since devise had that. Ooh, I can't type. Yeah, and add gem devise. So we'll do devise install. This adds an initializer, I think. And is that it? And a locale. So yeah, this, I usually just leave it all at the default. Um, you can kind of read through this as I am doing now, but yeah, I'm not too worried about all this right now. When we install a device, and the last thing that we need to do is devise, and we'll add our user model, and that's because like when you log in, you have your profile, and I think the only thing we'll add is like a first name and a last name field. I don't really care about the location or the real name. Yeah, we'll just do that. So let's just, oops, I might have a Vim already open. And I'm going to change this table. I'm going to put the first name and last name at the top. And we'll make them required. Like that. And email is unique, password token is unique. I think this looks good. I like to enable the tracking and the lockable. It's just nice to have these built in. And if we go to our user model, we can turn those on like that. That way we can check for things like inconsistencies with logins. Even though this isn't a full history, but we would kind of have the ability to do that. And likewise, we can lock users out if they fail to log in too many times. So we'll just migrate our DB here. Okay, and we will commit this and say add device user. Oh, another thing in the routes, I don't like to have this comment at the bottom. Like I would do it like this, and I'll leave it that way just because this is a tutorial. And we'll amend that last commit so that we don't have duplicate commits. Okay. So we now have device users, so we can probably come over here to our app and select users sign up. Device 4. We need to restart our server. Yeah, we added device as a gem. We added the initializer and all that, but we hadn't restarted the server. So now we have stuff here, and there we go. So we have a working password. Validator. Another thing I'm noticing or I'm thinking about is we need to go to our gem file. Let's add some unit testing here. So I'll add rspec rails, and we'll add another group here for test, and we'll add database cleaner. And I can never remember. I just always go to here and just grab this rspec, this thing. Grab these couple of lines here, and add gem rspec rails database cleaner. The downside, so I guess you know this, in Emacs, your shell is Emacs. So Control W backs a word, Alt B or Option B goes back a word, Option F goes forward a word, Control F goes forward a character, and Control B goes back a character. But Control B is also the leader for Tmux. So like when I hit Control B, it's expecting me to do something like this, right? Where you can do all your windows or whatever you want to do. But so if I do Control B in Emacs, I have to double. Anyways, those are like super useful, and people don't usually know about that. Like back and forth, and then like Control T is your transpose. So like if I type in like book and I typo it, I can move my character here and Control T to transpose those characters. Like, that works everywhere. Like, you go in here, Control W doesn't. Control B works, Control F works, Alt B does not work, Alt F does not work, Control E. Control A, Control E work. And then, like, if we do this example again, Control T transpose. So you have all of that built in to your Mac. That's one of the benefits of Macintosh. Anyways, yeah. So we add those gems, Rails G, RSpec install. We get to practice our transpose again. Bum, ba-dum. And install RSpec. And let's just make sure RSpec is working, and it is. 0 examples, 0 failures. And what we're going to do is just hop into our user model. We'll require a Rails helper. Make sure this passes. Nice and slow test. Super slow test. 4.27 seconds to load. That was faster, but I don't know how much faster. And we are going to have our validations here. And validates user attributes. So we'll have a user, and that is equal to user.new and user.valid. And we expect user.errors.full messages to equal. I don't know what this is going to equal yet. I know we want to say first name can't be blank. Last name can't be blank. Email can't be blank. I don't know what else is left. I know the first name is not going to be there. Password can't be blank. That's cool. So password can't be blank. I don't know. Martin Fowler said, I think it was Fowler, that like, and maybe it's Uncle Bob, I don't know. Like anytime that you want to know like a value, like this right here, like are password and email, do they have validations, right? It's tempting to hop into your Rails console and do this, right? And yeah, you can totally like debug and jump around and see what's here. But if you write a unit test for it, now you are like validating the state of the system at this current point in time. I'm also adding like what I expect the system to do in the future, and it'll forever be here so that if I ever make any changes, I'll be told immediately, like I broke email and password validations, which I think probably go from this. Yeah. So, but it also like told me like what was validatable from the built-in device helper method here. So what we do now is we say validates first name, and we're checking for presence, and we validate our last name for presence, and that test passes. So add user validations, and we added unit tests for that. So the interesting thing now is if we go to our app and we try to sign up, we're going to have like a bunch of errors. And the solution to this is that we want to add our views. Okay, so we get like a bunch of files when we do that. Add devise views. I have a tendency to make a bunch of tiny commits. I hope that doesn't just like bother everybody. Registrations. What is registrations edit? I don't know. We'll ignore that for now. Cancel my account. See, I have no idea. Oh, this must go with the confirmation part of it. I don't know. But you know what? The other thing is, I'd like to switch this around to use Bootstrap. And so we have to add a little bit here. Yeah, so we're adding some Bootstrap classes here. User sign up. Okay. But now we can come in here and we can say div our form group. Text field. First name. This one's going to need the autofocus on it. Okay, so now we have this, and we don't need any BR tags. And this needs to be moved down here. Something like that. Kind of like giving it some bootstrapness, readiness before Bootstrap actually shows up for the party. The other thing we're going to have, like now if we try to submit this, it's going to act like it still doesn't be submitted. It doesn't be submitted. And that is, I never did this part. Rails helper. I'm all over the place. But that's what makes good videos, right? The fact that I can't complete a single thing. Yeah, so install or configure database cleaner. Yeah, so we're going to hop into the devise readme. And there's a thing for strong parameters where we do this. Look at that. I'm just like using Vim like a boss. We'll just put these in here. So if you kind of read this, what we're doing here is we're defining a before action, which is just going to run this method here. And we're saying we're only going to do that if we're inside of a devise controller, which is something the devise gives us. And we're telling that we're permitting on sign up the additional keys for first name and last name. So now if I try to do this, you can see that stays populated. And I don't know why it changes lines when I have a value in it. That's weird. What is going on? Field with errors. So is this a Rails thing? I have this dash, that's what it's called, field. You know, I've never noticed this before. Oh, and you know, I probably also don't notice it because when you have Bootstrap on, it just puts the labels into a block element anyways. Anyways, let's go ahead and create our first account. So I'm Baylor. Nice to meet you. And Baylor@example.com. There's my real email address. You got it. Congratulations. +1 for Chrome. Okay, so we have an account. We're logged in now. And if we go and look at our, you can see we have our user, Baylor Ray. And so what we'll do is just say update registration or add first and last name to sign up form. Cool. And the other thing, let's go ahead and add, let's add a home page. So add an app controllers pages controller.rb pages controller, and in here it's an application controller. Oh, and I'll show you this. This is kind of neat. Let's add a unit test for this. And require Rails helper. describe our pages controller. So something I like to, let's run this, make sure it works. And we wait. There it goes. So it is an application controller. So something you can do, you can say like expect pages controller to inherit from application controller to be truthy, right? These are super helpful, this particular unit test, not necessarily in this particular instance, because like we only have two controllers, pages and application, but it's super helpful because what we're doing here is like, if we were in the admin section of this application, we might say this needs to be an admin controller. And the reason why it's nice to have this test here is because when you add this file, it's real easy to, or at least for me it is, it's real easy for me to write out application controller. So when you go back over and you add this test, even if it's the only test you have in your whole controller, it's perhaps the most important one to make sure that you're inheriting this controller here from here. And like you could do this, you could say subject.class. I think that's going to work as well. Let's change this to application. Yeah. So now, by doing it this way, we're not accidentally typoing it like if we copy and paste this around, right? And what you could do, you could go into your Rails helper, and there is a way to, I think you do like config dot before, is it a suite? Type controller, right? You could do this. It is an application controller. And now you don't even have to do anything. I don't know if I'd do that or not, but it's just something you can think about. But this particular syntax here, this is the whole thing I want to show is a syntax where like Ruby gives you a Boolean check with basically by omitting the class keyword. And I think it's pretty neat. So yeah, we have our pages controller. And what we want to do is we want to set our root to our pages home. And I can't do a controller test because I don't have the Rails controller testing gem. But we're okay. We don't need it. Yeah. And so we'll go down here, views, pages, home.html.rb, home, local non-stranger. Okay, so here we go. We have this, and what we can do is we can say if user signed in, please join my site. New user registration path. Is that correct? Destroy user session path. Method delete. Sign out. Boom. Okay. Register today or sign in. New user session path. There we go. There's my email address again. Okay, welcome non-stranger. And what we can actually do here is we can put out our current user.firstname. So here's something. Let's just commit here. Add custom home page.